The crisp autumn air carried a hint of anticipation as Tesla's flagship showroom prepared for its annual customer appreciation event. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with the excitement of staff polishing cars to a mirror-like sheen, arranging brochures, and practicing rehearsed smiles. The sprawling showroom was a masterpiece of modern design, with its minimalist architecture, illuminated by floor-to-ceiling windows that bathed the space in natural light. Amid the hustle, a man entered the showroom unnoticed by most. His presence didn't command attention. He wore worn-out jeans, scuffed sneakers, and a plain hoodie with a baseball cap pulled low over his forehead. He seemed out of place among the polished executives and affluent customers browsing Tesla's latest models, but there was a sharpness to his movements, a quiet confidence that hinted at something more. It was Elon Musk, billionaire innovator and CEO of Tesla, disguised as an ordinary customer. Today, he wasn't the celebrated tech mogul, he was just another face in the crowd. His mission was simple but profound: to experience firsthand how Tesla treated its customers, regardless of appearance or wealth. The showroom staff, unaware of his true identity, were on edge. Corporate evaluators were rumored to be visiting incognito, and whispers of possible promotions or reprimands had spread like wildfire. Everyone was trying their best, at least outwardly. Yet, Elon's keen eye noticed cracks beneath the polished surface. A young sales associate nervously fidgeted with her tablet, her smile faltering as she approached a client in a modest outfit. Meanwhile, a suited man with an expensive watch strode confidently into the room, and the dynamic shifted instantly. Staff gravitated toward him like moths to a flame, their voices louder, their attention sharper. Elon walked up to the reception desk and waited. Behind the counter stood Tim, a sharply dressed employee in his early 30s, radiating a self-assured demeanor. Tim's eyes flickered over Elon, pausing briefly on his worn sneakers before offering a lukewarm smile. "Good morning," Tim said, his tone polite but distant. "How can I help you today?" Elon, adjusting his cap to further obscure his face, replied, "I was hoping to learn more about the Model 3. Heard it's a great car for the price." Tim's smile tightened. "Of course. Let me grab someone to assist you," he said, but there was no urgency in his movements. Instead, his gaze wandered toward the suited man, who was now surrounded by eager staff members showcasing Tesla's premium Model X. Elon remained by the counter, silently observing. He noticed how employees prioritized potential big spenders, their enthusiasm waning when dealing with anyone who didn't exude wealth or influence. A sense of unease settled over him as he realized how far this behavior strayed from Tesla's core mission of accessibility and innovation for all. Emma, a junior associate with kind eyes and a tentative smile, noticed Elon waiting. She hesitated for a moment, glancing at her manager, Daniel, who was busy overseeing the high-profile clients. Gathering her courage, she approached Elon with a genuine smile. "Hi there," Emma said. "I can help you with the Model 3. It's an amazing car, super efficient and packed with features. Are you thinking about financing or buying outright?" Elon studied her for a moment, noting the earnestness in her voice. Still deciding, he replied, his tone measured. "I'm just trying to see if it's the right fit for me." As Emma led him toward the car, Tim watched from the corner of his eye, muttering under his breath, wasting time with window shoppers. Unbeknownst to Tim and everyone else in the showroom, the man they dismissed as a potential waste of effort was not here to make a purchase. He was here to test them, and so far, they were failing. As the scene unfolded, a sense of suspense began to build. Elon wasn't just observing, he was taking mental notes, piecing together the subtle biases and hierarchies at play. The storm brewing in his mind was far greater than any of the staff could imagine. This wasn't about cars or sales, it was about integrity, values, and the culture he had worked so hard to create. And for those who underestimated him, the revelation waiting at the end of this day would be a shock they'd never forget. Elon Musk sat alone in his office at SpaceX, the dim glow of monitors casting long shadows across the sleek, minimalist interior. The clock on the wall ticked past midnight, but Elon's focus remained sharp as he reviewed the day's updates. Amidst the silence, his assistant's voice crackled over the intercom, breaking his train of thought. "Elon, there's something I think you should hear." Curious, he tapped a button on his desk, and an audio file began to play. It was a recorded complaint from a Tesla retail employee. venting frustration about the favoritism shown toward wealthy clients. The words were raw, laden with disappointment. We're supposed to treat every customer equally, but it's obvious who gets prioritized. If they're dressed sharp or mention big budgets, the red carpet rolls out. If they're not, well, we just brush them aside. Elon leaned back in his chair, the words echoing in his mind. Tesla had been founded on the principle of inclusivity, a company for the masses, not just the elite. If this claim were true, it was a betrayal of everything the brand stood for. Yet, he needed more than second-hand accounts to confirm the extent of the problem. He needed to see it for himself. The next morning, he set his plan into motion. Digging through his closet, Elon picked out a worn hoodie, a pair of faded jeans, and scuffed sneakers. He topped it off with a baseball cap, pulling the brim low to obscure his face. The transformation was striking. Gone was the world-famous billionaire. In his place stood a man who could easily blend into a crowd. To complete the disguise, Elon instructed his security team to keep their distance and set off alone to Tesla's flagship showroom, the first of several he planned to visit. The Tesla showroom was a modern marvel. Its sleek, open design featured glossy floors reflecting the showroom lights and pristine cars displayed like pieces of art. The staff bustled about, preparing for the annual customer appreciation event. Elon walked in unnoticed, taking in the buzz of activity around him. He quickly noted the dynamics of the space. Staff members gravitated toward clients who exuded affluence, identifiable by tailored suits, designer handbags, or a confident air of wealth. Others, dressed more modestly, were left waiting longer or receiving half-hearted assistance. Elon approached the reception desk, where a sharply dressed employee named Tim stood. Tim was in his early 30s, with an air of practiced charm and a sharp eye for assessing potential clients. His gaze flickered to Elon, briefly pausing on the worn sneakers and plain hoodie, before settling into a polite but disinterested expression. "Good morning," Tim said, his tone clipped and professional. "How can I help you today?" "I wanted to learn more about the Model 3, Elon replied, keeping his tone casual. "Thinking of getting one." Tim's smile tightened. "Of course. The Model 3 is a great choice. Let me see if someone's available to assist you." Without waiting for a response, Tim glanced over his shoulder and waved to a junior associate. It was clear to Elon that Tim had no intention of handling this inquiry himself. The junior associate, Emma, hesitated before walking over. She was in her mid-20s, with a kind face that hinted at both eagerness and self-doubt. Her hands fidgeted slightly as she approached Elon. "Hi there," Emma said, her voice warm but tentative. "I can help you with the Model 3. Do you have any specific features in mind?" "Not really," Elon replied. "I'm just starting to look around. Heard it's a good car for the price." As Emma led him toward the Model 3 display, Elon caught snippets of conversations around the showroom. A suited man discussing financing options for a Model X was surrounded by staff members, their tones animated and enthusiastic. Nearby, a middle-aged couple in casual attire hovered near the Model Y, ignored despite their obvious interest. The disparity was glaring, and Elon made a mental note. Emma began explaining the features of the Model 3, her voice steadying as she warmed to the task. Elon asked detailed questions about battery performance, warranty coverage, and charging infrastructure, carefully gauging her responses. While she didn't have all the answers, her effort to provide accurate and helpful information was evident. She even offered to print additional materials for him to review at home. Meanwhile, Tim observed the interaction from a distance, muttering to a colleague, probably just a window shopper. "Emma always wastes time on these types." Elon ignored the comment, but it stuck with him. This was precisely what he had come to uncover, a culture that valued appearances over substance. As Emma continued her explanation, Elon asked a deliberate question. "What if I'm interested in financing? I'm not sure I can afford it outright." Emma hesitated, then said, "That's totally fine. Tesla has great financing options. I can walk you through them if you'd like." Her response was genuine, but Elon noticed her eyes flick briefly toward her manager, Daniel, who was now watching them. Daniel was a middle-aged man with a commanding presence and a reputation for strictness. He walked over, his expression neutral, but his tone clipped. "Emma, can I see you for a moment?" Daniel asked, motioning her aside. Once out of earshot, he spoke quietly but firmly. "Focus your time on clients who are ready to make a purchase. We've got high-profile guests here today. Emma nodded, her face falling slightly as she returned to Elon. She resumed her explanation, but the interaction had clearly shaken her. Elon pretended not to notice, continuing to ask questions and show interest in the car. The dynamic of the showroom became increasingly apparent as the day wore on. Elon witnessed a young man asking questions about Tesla's environmental impact, only to be brushed off by an employee eager to attend to a client with a luxury watch. A family looking at the Model Y waited nearly 20 minutes before anyone acknowledged them. The hierarchy of attention was undeniable, and it troubled Elon deeply. As the afternoon progressed, Elon decided to raise the stakes. He casually mentioned to Emma that he might be interested in purchasing 2 vehicles for a family business. Her eyes lit up with renewed energy, and she began outlining potential configurations and pricing options. However, Tim, overhearing the comment, suddenly became interested. Tim sauntered over, his demeanor shifting from dismissive to eager. Thinking about getting 2 vehicles. That's a smart move. Let me take over from here. Emma looked uncomfortable but stepped aside, letting Tim take the lead. He launched into a rehearsed pitch, his tone dripping with false enthusiasm. Elon played along, asking increasingly detailed questions to see how far Tim would go to secure a sale. Tim's answers were polished but shallow, and it became clear he was more interested in closing the deal than addressing genuine concerns. Elon shifted his focus back to Emma, subtly encouraging her to rejoin the conversation. Her responses, while less polished, were thoughtful and sincere, highlighting the stark contrast between her approach and Tim's. As the day drew to a close, Elon had seen enough. The behavior he had observed confirmed the employees' complaint a culture of favoritism was deeply ingrained in the showroom. Yet, amidst the flaws, there were glimmers of hope. Emma's kindness and dedication stood out, a reminder that Tesla's core values still resonate with some of its employees. Elon left the showroom with a mix of emotions. His disguise had allowed him to see the company through the eyes of an ordinary customer, and what he had witnessed was both troubling and enlightening. There was work to be done, and he was determined to address the issues at their root. As he walked away, unnoticed by the staff, Elon couldn't help but smile faintly. The day's events had revealed much about the challenges Tesla faced, but also the potential for growth and change. And for those who had underestimated him, the surprise waiting in the days ahead would be one they would never forget. The afternoon sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Tesla showroom, casting a golden glow on the immaculate display of cars. Elon stood near the Model S Plaid, the pinnacle of Tesla's engineering, his eyes glinting with interest as he ran his hand over the car's sleek surface. The thought of taking the vehicle for a spin seemed like the perfect opportunity to deepen his undercover exploration. "Do you allow test drives on this model?" Elon asked, his tone casual but curious. Tim, who had been preoccupied with a clipboard, glanced up sharply. His expression revealed a flicker of annoyance as he processed the question. Dressed as an unassuming customer, Elon still failed to command Tim's respect, his casual attire clearly overshadowing the magnitude of the man behind it. "It's not something we usually offer to just anyone," Tim replied curtly, his tone implying Elon might not meet the necessary criteria. But with the mention of a potential 2-car purchase earlier, Tim was reluctantly willing to play along. After an exaggerated pause, he added, "I suppose I can make an exception this time. But please return it in one piece." The remark, meant to be lighthearted, carried a condescending undertone. Elon caught it but remained impassive, offering a brief nod. His composure unnerved Tim slightly, who handed over the key fob with a thin smile. Emma, observing the exchange from a distance, stepped forward quickly. "I can go with him," she volunteered, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. Tim shrugged, handing her a tablet. "Fine. Just make sure he doesn't waste too much time." His words were louder than necessary, a subtle reminder of where he thought Elon stood in the hierarchy of their clientele. As they walked to the car, Emma glanced at Elon, her earnestness cutting through the awkwardness left by Tim's comments. "You're going to love this car," she said, her excitement genuine. "It's fast, smooth, and the technology is amazing. Are you familiar with Tesla's self-driving features?" Elon smiled faintly. "I've heard a little about them." The test drive began in silence, the hum of the electric motor replacing the usual roar of combustion engines. Elon waited until they had left the showroom parking lot before he began his subtle interrogation. He asked Emma about battery efficiency in extreme weather, the intricacies of the autopilot system, and hypothetical scenarios involving Tesla's safety features. Emma did her best to answer, her knowledge surprisingly solid for a junior associate, though she stumbled over the finer technical details. Yet, what she lacked in precision, she more than made up for in enthusiasm and honesty. "I don't know the exact answer to that," she admitted at one point, "but I can look it up for you when we get back. I want to make sure you have the most accurate information." Her candor impressed Elon, standing in stark contrast to the rehearsed pitches he had received from other staff earlier. She genuinely wanted to help, even if she wasn't entirely sure how. Elon made a mental note of her sincerity. As they pulled back into the showroom's parking lot, the sound of raised voices drew their attention. Inside, a commotion had broken out. A man in a tailored suit stood near the reception desk, his voice loud and commanding. His designer watch glinted in the sunlight as he gestured aggressively toward a nervous-looking staff member. "I've been waiting for 20 minutes, and this is how you treat your customers," the man snapped, his voice dripping with indignation. "Do you even understand who I am?" Daniel, the showroom manager, was quick to intervene. His approach was almost theatrical, his demeanor shifting into one of exaggerated concern. "I'm terribly sorry, sir," Daniel said, his tone dripping with contrition. "This is not the standard of service we aim to provide. Allow me to personally assist you. We'll make it right, I promise." The man's anger began to wane as Daniel offered a slew of discounts and perks, including a free upgrade on his order. Staff members flitted around the man like moths to a flame, eager to appease. Meanwhile, other customers, those who were casually dressed or less assertive, stood unnoticed, their needs apparently deemed less urgent. Elon observed the scene with a growing sense of dismay. The blatant favoritism was impossible to ignore. The wealthy man's complaint had disrupted the entire showroom, while other customers were left unattended. It was clear that appearances and status dictated the level of service, a reality that clashed with Tesla's core mission of inclusivity. As Daniel escorted the man to a private seating area, Elon caught sight of Emma standing off to the side. Her expression was a mix of frustration and resignation. She glanced at the unnoticed customers, clearly wanting to help but held back by the unspoken rules of the showroom. Tim, meanwhile, leaned against the reception desk, smirking as he watched the scene unfold. "It's just business," he remarked to a colleague. "You cater to the ones who can actually afford it. Simple as that." Elon felt a flicker of anger at the remark but masked it with his usual calm. He wasn't here to confront anyone just yet. Instead, he decided it was time to escalate his experiment. If the staff thought appearances dictated worth, he would test just how far they would go to secure a sale. Returning to the reception desk, Elon asked Tim a question that immediately caught his attention. "What if I'm interested in upgrading to the Model S Plaid instead of the Model 3, he said casually. "And what if I wanted 2 of them?" Tim's entire demeanor shifted. His initial disinterest melted away, replaced by a carefully crafted enthusiasm. "That's an excellent choice," he said, his voice suddenly warmer. "The Model S Plaid is a masterpiece, top of the line in every way. Let me show you some configurations." Elon feigned indecision, asking increasingly detailed questions about the customization options, financing plans, and delivery timelines. Tim answered each question with polished precision, clearly eager to close what he believed would be a massive sale. Emma hovered nearby, her expression conflicted. She seemed torn between wanting to assist and feeling sidelined by Tim's sudden takeover. Elon noticed and decided to involve her directly. "Emma, could you explain more about the safety features? You mentioned them earlier during the test drive." Emma brightened at the invitation, stepping forward to provide an answer. Her passion and sincerity once again shone through, even as Tim tried to steer the conversation back to himself. The contrast between the two employees was stark. Emma genuinely cared about providing value, while Tim's sole focus was on securing the sale. As the afternoon wore on, Elon's subtle prodding revealed more cracks in the showroom's culture. It wasn't just Tim or Daniel, there was a systemic issue at play. Staff were conditioned to prioritize high-profile clients, often at the expense of everyone else. Yet, amidst the flaws, there were glimmers of hope, embodied by employees like Emma, who still believed in the company's mission. Elon's resolve hardened. The favoritism, the biases, the dismissive attitudes, they were symptoms of a deeper problem, one that needed to be addressed at its core. But for now, he would let the game play out. There was still more to learn, and his ultimate reveal was yet to come. The Tesla showroom hummed with the subtle energy of commerce, a mix of conversations, footsteps, and the soft chime of the automated sliding doors. Elon, still in his hoodie and cap, stood near the Model 3 display, his body language purposefully casual, almost uncertain. He was playing a role now, the undecided, budget-conscious customer who might not be worth the time of busy sales staff. It was a stark contrast to the sharp, decisive demeanor of the man behind the disguise. "Hey," Elon called softly as she passed by, juggling a tablet and a stack of brochures. She turned immediately, her ever-present earnestness lighting up her face. "Yes? How can I help?" "I've been thinking more about the Model 3, but I'm not sure I can afford it outright." "Do you have detailed financing options?" Elon asked, his tone laced with deliberate uncertainty. Emma's smile didn't waver. "Of course. Let me print out the breakdown for you. It'll include all the monthly payment plans, interest rates, and options for down payments." She hurried to the desk, her movements quick but unhurried, an eagerness to assist evident in every step. As she worked, Elon noticed Tim lingering near the reception desk, chatting with Daniel. Their conversation wasn't meant to be overheard, but Elon's sharp ears caught the tail end. "Emma's wasting time again," Tim muttered, shaking his head. "Guy looks like he's here to take notes, not buy a car." Daniel frowned slightly but didn't seem overly concerned. "Just make sure you're focused on the high-value clients. That's what matters." Elon smirked under the brim of his cap. He suspected these biases existed, but hearing them spoken aloud was something else. Daniel, for all his managerial authority, seemed more interested in placating the more affluent clientele than fostering a culture of inclusivity. Emma returned moments later, handing Elon a neatly printed packet. "Here's everything you'll need. I can also email you the details if you want to review them later." Elon thanked her, glancing over the documents, as if genuinely considering his options. "What happens if I miss a payment? Is there a penalty for that?" Emma hesitated for a brief moment, then nodded. "There is, but Tesla works with customers to find solutions if something unexpected happens. Let me double-check the specifics for you." She turned toward a nearby computer, typing rapidly, while Tim ambled over, his expression a blend of exasperation and forced politeness. "Still thinking about the Model 3?" Tim asked, barely masking the impatience in his voice. "If financing's a concern, you might want to consider the certified pre-owned models. They're more affordable and come with a solid warranty." Elon feigned indecision, rubbing his chin. "That's an idea. But I really like the Model 3's features, autopilot and the longer range." Tim's smile tightened. "Sure, but those come at a premium. You know, some customers find they can stretch their budget for something bigger, like the Model Y. Better value in the long run." Emma returned at that moment, holding another printed sheet. "Here are the penalties for missed payments," she said, her voice cutting into the conversation. "But Tesla does offer extensions if you communicate early." Tim shot her a quick, annoyed glance but said nothing, stepping back to let her finish. Elon couldn't help but appreciate Emma's persistence. Even in the face of subtle discouragement from her colleagues, she remained focused on helping him. As the day went on, Elon's observations painted a clear picture of the showroom's dynamics. A middle-class couple lingered near the Model Y display, their hands clasped together as they examined the features on a tablet. Despite their obvious interest, they were ignored for over 20 minutes while staff swarmed a celebrity client who had just walked in. The celebrity, dressed in casual but unmistakably expensive attire, was accompanied by an assistant who did most of the talking. Yet the attention they commanded was unwavering. Staff offered sparkling water, immediate access to a private seating area, and assurances that their order would be prioritized. The disparity stung. Tesla was meant to be a brand for everyone, yet here it felt like a gated community where only the wealthiest customers mattered. Nearby, a young man approached Emma with questions about Tesla's environmental impact and the recyclability of their batteries. She answered with enthusiasm, even pausing to pull up additional information on her tablet. Elon noticed Tim roll his eyes as he walked past, muttering something about hipsters and their save the planet nonsense. Elon decided it was time to escalate his experiment. Returning to the reception desk, he made a show of hesitating before addressing Tim. "Can I ask you something?" Tim looked up, a flicker of impatience crossing his face. "Sure, what's up?" "I've been thinking. If I were to buy 2 Teslas for a family business, would there be any sort of bulk discount? Maybe a perk for being a repeat customer?" Elon asked, keeping his tone nonchalant but curious. The change in Tim's demeanor was instantaneous. His posture straightened, and his smile became broader, almost predatory. "2 Teslas? That's a great idea. Absolutely, we could work something out for a loyal customer like you. Let me get you the details right away." Within moments, Daniel joined the conversation, clearly alerted by Tim. The manager's approach was smooth, his voice dripping with polished charm. "Considering 2 vehicles? That's fantastic. We can explore some excellent financing options for you, and I'd be happy to personally ensure your experience is seamless." Elon played his part, nodding and asking increasingly detailed questions about configurations and delivery timelines. He feigned hesitation at every turn, testing how far they were willing to go to secure a potential high-value sale. The attention he received was starkly different from their earlier dismissive attitudes. As Daniel and Tim competed for Elon's focus, Emma quietly approached, holding a brochure she had annotated with handwritten notes. "I thought this might help," she said, offering it to Elon. "It includes side-by-side comparisons of all the models, plus some insights on which configurations work best for family businesses." Her gesture was simple but thoughtful, and Elon could see the effort she had put into it. He accepted the brochure with a smile. "Thanks, Emma. I appreciate it." Tim, however, was visibly irritated. "Emma, we've got other customers waiting," he said, his tone sharp. "Maybe you should focus on them." Emma hesitated but nodded, stepping away reluctantly. Elon's gaze followed her as she moved to assist a family by the Model Y, her sincerity undimmed despite Tim's dismissal. By the end of the day, Elon had seen enough to confirm his suspicions. The favoritism, the dismissive attitudes, the prioritization of appearances over genuine interest, it was all there, woven into the fabric of the showroom's culture. Yet amidst the flaws, Emma's quiet persistence stood out. She represented what Tesla could and should be: a brand rooted in sincerity, inclusivity, and a genuine desire to serve. As Elon prepared to leave, Daniel approached one last time, his voice brimming with false warmth. "So, have you made a decision? I'd hate for you to miss out on our current incentives." Elon smiled faintly. "I'm still thinking, but don't worry, you'll be hearing from me soon." Daniel nodded, clearly pleased, while Tim gave a self-satisfied smirk. They had no idea the true nature of the man they had been speaking to, nor the profound consequences their behavior would soon have. As Elon stepped out into the cool evening air, the Tesla logo glowing softly behind him, he felt a mix of disappointment and determination. The test had revealed much, and now it was time to act. Change was coming, and it would start here. The late afternoon sunlight streamed into the Tesla showroom, casting long shadows across the polished floors as the day neared its end. The atmosphere had shifted subtly, with employees visibly fatigued but still maintaining their professional facades. Elon lingered near the reception desk, observing one final interaction between Tim and a middle-aged couple. The couple, dressed in modest attire, were inquiring about financing options for the Model 3. Their voices carried a tone of nervous excitement, as if this purchase would mark a significant milestone in their lives. Tim, however, barely concealed his impatience. He answered their questions with clipped tones, repeatedly glancing over their shoulders toward Elon, who had moments ago hinted at purchasing 2 high-end vehicles. The couple exchanged uncertain glances before stepping away, clearly uncomfortable with Tim's dismissive attitude. Elon waited until they were out of earshot before approaching the desk. Tim immediately perked up, his demeanor transforming into exaggerated friendliness. "So, have you made a decision about the Model S Plaid?" Tim asked, his tone now syrupy and eager. "We can lock in some great incentives for you today." Before Elon could respond, the doors to the showroom slid open, and a group of sharply dressed individuals entered. Their presence was immediately commanding Tesla corporate executives, their tailored suits and purposeful strides signaling authority. The atmosphere in the showroom shifted instantly. Daniel, who had been speaking to another client, stiffened and hurried toward them, his expression a mix of surprise and concern. Elon watched the scene unfold, the corners of his mouth lifting in a faint smile. The timing was perfect. Daniel approached the executives with a rehearsed charm, extending his hand to greet them. "Welcome. We weren't expecting you today, but it's always a pleasure to have a corporate visit. Is there anything I can assist you with?" The lead executive, a woman with sharp eyes and an air of quiet authority, scanned the showroom briefly before responding. "We're here for an unscheduled evaluation. Please continue as if we're not here." Daniel's smile faltered slightly, but he nodded. Of course. Make yourselves at home." As the executives dispersed to observe the showroom, Elon stepped forward. He removed his cap and hoodie in one fluid motion, revealing his face to the room. The effect was immediate. The air seemed to leave the space as recognition dawned on the faces of those around him. Tim froze, his jaw slack, the blood draining from his face. Daniel turned mid-step, his confident stride faltering as his eyes locked on Elon. The quiet murmur of activity in the showroom dwindled to a stunned silence. "Mr. Musk," Tim stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't realize." "That much is clear," Elon interrupted, his voice calm but carrying a weight that silenced any further words from Tim. Emma, standing by the Model Y display, looked as stunned as the others but quickly composed herself. Her eyes flickered between Elon and the staff, her expression a mix of surprise and curiosity. Elon took a step forward, his piercing gaze sweeping across the room. "Let's talk about what I've seen today," he began, his tone measured but firm. "Tesla's mission has always been to create a future that's accessible and inclusive, where innovation serves everyone. But what I've witnessed here tells me that somewhere along the way we've lost sight of that mission." He turned to face Tim directly. "Tim, do you remember what you said earlier about focusing on the ones who can actually afford it? Or how you brushed off customers because you assumed they weren't worth your time?" Tim opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. He glanced helplessly at Daniel, whose expression had hardened into one of barely concealed panic. And Daniel, Elon continued, shifting his focus. "You, as a manager, set the tone for this entire team. What message does it send when you prioritize flashy clients while ignoring others? What kind of culture have you built here?" Daniel's face flushed red. "Mr. Musk, I assure you, this isn't representative of." Elon raised a hand, silencing him. "I'm not interested in excuses," he said, his voice cutting through the room. "I'm interested in solutions. And this toxic culture isn't something that can be fixed with empty promises." The tension in the room was palpable. Tim fidgeted uncomfortably, and Daniel avoided eye contact, his earlier confidence completely shattered. Elon's gaze softened slightly as he turned to Emma. "And then there's Emma," he said, his tone shifting to one of quiet admiration. Despite the discouragement, despite being told to focus on higher-value clients, she showed what true customer service looks like. She took the time to answer questions, to provide thoughtful information, and to treat every customer with respect. That's what Tesla should stand for. Emma's cheeks flushed, and she glanced down at the floor, clearly overwhelmed by the unexpected praise. Elon paused, letting the weight of his words settle before delivering the final blow. "Everything that happened today has been documented. From the way customers were treated to the conversations that were had. This isn't just about this showroom, it's about the culture we're fostering across the company." Daniel's face turned an even deeper shade of red. "Documented?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. "Yes," Elon replied simply. "For an internal review. Tesla's values are non-negotiable, and it's clear we have work to do to align the reality with the vision." The corporate executives, who had been observing silently, exchanged meaningful glances. The lead executive stepped forward, addressing the room. "This is a pivotal moment," she said, her voice firm. "Tesla has always been a company driven by innovation and values. What happened here today will serve as a lesson, not just for this showroom but for the entire organization." Elon turned to Emma once more. "Emma, your efforts didn't go unnoticed. I'll personally see to it that you're given the recognition and opportunities you deserve." Emma's eyes widened, and she nodded quickly, her voice barely a whisper. "Thank you, Mr. Musk." The silence lingered for a few moments longer before Elon addressed the staff one final time. "This isn't just about pointing out flaws, it's about creating change. You have an opportunity to do better, to represent the values that brought Tesla to where it is today. Don't waste it." With that, he turned and walked toward the door, the corporate executives following closely behind. The staff remained rooted in place, the weight of the day's events sinking in. As the showroom doors closed behind him, Elon glanced up at the Tesla logo glowing above. His expression was resolute. The day had been challenging, but it had revealed the truth. And for Tesla, the truth was the first step toward progress. The air in the Tesla showroom was heavy, the silence deafening after Elon's reveal and the sharp critiques that followed. Employees stood frozen, some staring at the ground, others exchanging nervous glances. The corporate executives, now fully engaged, maintained a quiet but commanding presence, their expressions a mixture of concern and resolution. Elon returned to the center of the room, his calm demeanor holding the attention of everyone present. His voice broke the silence, measured and deliberate. "I didn't come here to embarrass anyone," he began, his eyes scanning the room, landing briefly on Daniel and then Tim. "But what I've seen today raises questions. We all need to answer questions about who we are as a company and what we stand for." He motioned toward the group of executives, then continued. "Tesla wasn't built on the idea of exclusivity. We didn't create this company just for the wealthy or the elite. Our mission, our entire mission, is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, and that means serving everyone. Not just those who can afford to buy 2 cars without blinking." Tim shifted uncomfortably, his face pale. Daniel cleared his throat, but he said nothing, his earlier bravado replaced with visible unease. Elon turned his attention to the gathered employees, his tone softening slightly. "I know the pressures you're under. Sales targets, client expectations, the constant need to perform. It's a tough environment. But those pressures don't excuse losing sight of our core values. When we prioritize appearances over sincerity, when we treat people differently because of how they look or what they wear, we betray everything Tesla stands for." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle before addressing Daniel directly. "Daniel, as the manager here, you set the tone. Your team follows your lead, and today I saw a culture that prioritizes quick wins over meaningful relationships. That's not the kind of leadership we need." Daniel's face flushed a deep red. I take full responsibility, Mr. Musk," he stammered. "I see now that I've made mistakes. This isn't the culture I wanted to create." Elon's gaze remained steady. "Acknowledging it is the first step. But words alone won't fix this." Turning to Tim, Elon's tone grew sharper. "Tim, you dismissed customers because they didn't look the part. You made assumptions about their worth based on appearances. Do you think that's acceptable?" Tim stammered, his confidence shattered. "No, sir. I wasn't thinking clearly. I'll do better, I promise." Elon nodded, his expression unreadable. "You'll have the opportunity to prove that. But let me be clear, this behavior ends today." Finally, Elon shifted his focus to Emma. The tension in the room softened as he addressed her. "And then there's Emma," he said, his tone warm. "In the face of all this, you did exactly what we should expect from every Tesla employee. You treated everyone with respect. You took the time to help, even when it wasn't easy or convenient. That's what real leadership looks like." Emma's eyes widened, and she blinked rapidly, clearly holding back tears. "Thank you, Mr. Musk," she said quietly. Elon smiled. "No, thank you. You reminded me of what Tesla can be. Your dedication and sincerity deserve recognition." He turned to the executives. "I want Emma enrolled in a mentorship program immediately. She has the potential to do great things, and we're going to support her every step of the way." The executives nodded in agreement, jotting down notes. Emma looked overwhelmed but managed a small, grateful smile. Elon addressed the entire team again, his voice steady and commanding. "This isn't just about this showroom. It's about the culture we're building across Tesla. Today's experience will be reviewed thoroughly, and changes will be implemented. That means training, accountability, and a renewed commitment to our mission." The corporate team began discussing plans for implementing new policies while the employees listened intently. Elon stayed for a while longer, offering feedback and answering questions, his presence both reassuring and galvanizing. As the evening sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the showroom floor, Elon prepared to leave. The team watched as he made his way to the door, their expressions a mixture of humility and determination. Just before stepping outside, Elon paused, turning back to address them one final time. This isn't the end, it's the beginning of something better. We're not just selling cars, we're building trust, hope, and a sustainable future. Don't forget that. With that, he stepped into the crisp evening air. The Tesla logo glowed brightly above the entrance, a beacon of innovation and progress. Elon walked to his car, a quiet satisfaction settling over him. The day had been challenging, but it had also been illuminating. The cracks he had seen in the foundation of Tesla's culture were fixable, and the seeds of change had been planted. As he opened the door to his Tesla, he looked back at the showroom. Through the glass, he could see Emma speaking with a family, her genuine smile lighting up her face. Nearby, Tim and Daniel were deep in conversation, their postures less rigid, their expressions thoughtful. The corporate team was still inside, poring over notes and discussing next steps. Elon allowed himself a small smile. This wasn't just a test, it was a turning point. The road ahead would be long, but he had no doubt that Tesla would emerge stronger, more aligned with the vision that had driven its creation. The final scene shifts to the following weeks, showing a transformed showroom environment. Staff are seen working collaboratively, their interactions more inclusive and respectful. Emma is shown leading a training session for new hires, her confidence visibly grown. Daniel, humbled but determined, is actively fostering a healthier team culture. Even Tim, though still learning, is seen engaging sincerely with customers. The camera pans out from the bustling showroom, the Tesla logo shining brightly as customers of all backgrounds explore the cars inside. The story ends on a hopeful note, symbolizing the power of reflection and the potential for transformation when values are truly embraced. A middle-aged man wearing a worn-out hoodie, faded jeans, and scuffed sneakers stands inside a sleek Tesla showroom. He has a baseball cap pulled low over his face, partially obscuring his identity. The showroom features a modern design with polished floors, large Tesla cars on display, and sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Staff members in professional attire are seen in the background, busy attending to wealthy clients, while the man stands unnoticed near the reception desk, his sharp eyes observing everything.